Alrighty, hey guys, this is the first lesson in this blended style of go at your own pace, choose your own adventure mathematics. We are first looking at chapter 6, which is all about algebra and patterns. I'm sure some of you have seen this before, and for some of you it might be brand new, which is totally fine. If it is a bit brand new and you're a bit confused, please just let me know, because I can absolutely spend a bit more time helping you out. Okay, so this is to be done with the chapter 6 task on MathSpace, patterns and algebra, the topic task. So a lot of these questions will be very, very similar. Hopefully some of the numbers are different if I've done my job correctly, but you can use this as an accompaniment, skip through it at your own pace, and then attempt that task. And then of course we have our exit tickets when you think you have completely nailed this topic to move on to the next one. Okay. So we start with Tobias, or Toby. He is selling some apples in boxes and some individually. The assumption here is that each of these boxes has the same number of apples, but we're just going to call that number y for the time being. Okay, so if y was 10, then each box would have that y, that 10 apples. And obviously this is 1 apple each, so 3 outside the boxes. Okay, so the first question is asking, or basically what we just described, how many apples does each symbol represent? Okay, that's just using our key over here and transcribing that. So obviously then one box is y apples, whatever number that may be. And just 1 apple there is just 1 apple. Okay? So then we're given this situation where we have 2 boxes and 1 apple outside. That would then be, well, y plus 1. But what we like to do in algebra is group things together whenever we can to make it a bit easier to write. So I just look and I say, well, how many y's have I got here? There are 2. So I can just write that as 2y plus 1. Just a bit nicer. Okay, now I've grouped these together because they're all very, very similar questions. They're just going to be using some words that you may not be too familiar with. So when I write an expression just up here for 8 more than 5x, well, you're going to start by saying, well, I start with 5x, and then to get 8 more than that, I must plus 8. Okay, the one underneath, I've got 3 less than 8y. Now be very careful, this isn't 3 minus 8y, because that would be 8y less than 3. To do this, I have to take the same approach. I start with my 8y, and if I want 3 less than that, I need to minus 3. Okay, an expression, if you're not sure, is just kind of like a number sentence. So just this is an expression. All right, even 4 plus 3 is an expression. We just use them a lot more with algebra. Okay, now product is a word that means to multiply. Okay, so for example, the product of 3 and 4 would be 12. All right, now when we're doing it with algebra, the product of 9u and 8 would look just like this. And that is our expression. But it's this simplify bit here that makes it a little bit harder. The maths is quite simple. You might just sometimes forget what we're meant to do. All I want you to do here is just pretend that that u doesn't exist. This is just 9 times 8. 9 times 8 being 72. And then any extra characters I have, my u, it could be an a, an x, a b, I'm just going to let them trail at the end there and just make sure you include them. We don't need to write any time symbols because by simplifying we get rid of those unnecessary symbols. Okay, if I was to make that even harder, what I could do is say like 4ab times 3cd, okay, as another one. And again, what I do is I start with just the numbers. So 4 times 3, that's just 12. And then I'm just going to write every single letter, or pronumeral is the proper term trailing after that number. We generally write them in alphabetical order, so A, B, C, D, just to keep things nice and simple. Okay, last one looks a little bit scary. We've got quotient. If we've done plus, minus, times, then you can probably assume this is divide. Now, hopefully we've graduated from this divide symbol that I've drawn here and started to write our divisions as fractions, because that's a lot nicer, it's a lot more beneficial down the track, and it's just future proofing. All right, I can't simplify that. If I gave you one that you could simplify, maybe 80u over 90, what you might realize is that I can divide the top by 10 and I can divide the bottom by 10 and I would get that same answer. Okay, so sometimes we might have to do that extra step of simplifying. Now, I included this one just because it's got a really important word here, which is coefficient. I've definitely overkilled on the highlighter there. Coefficient just means the number in front of our pronumeral. In other words, it's saying how many y's do I have? There are 7. So my answer here would just be 7. That's the coefficient. Okay, now this one's a little bit tricky because we have, I don't know if I can, there we go. Because we have a number at the front of some brackets. Okay, and we need to choose the expression that makes sense here. So from BODMAS, the only thing I need you to think about here is that B, brackets, is always what happens first. So when we write out this sentence worded as one of these 4 options, the first thing we did is we added P and 9, and then we timesed that answer, that sum, by 4. So let's see if we can find that here. Option A, the sum of P and 9, well that means P plus 9, is multiplied by 4. Well, that's the answer right there. The reason the other ones don't work, that's the sum of 4 and 9, that doesn't make sense. This is 9 less than, that must be minusing, doesn't make sense. And 9 more than, well that's just changing the order again, so it must be A. Okay, there's just 2 more here. The first one is about substitution. So that's when you're given an expression and then you're given the actual value of x and the value of y. So what that means is this expression, which was just simplified fully, I couldn't bring anything else together, I can't add x's and y's because they're different. Now I can put in 3's instead of my x's and 2's instead of my y's, and I can actually get an answer here. So if I do that, what you've got to think about is this is like saying here 3 lots of x or 3 x's. So in other words, it's 3 times 3. Okay, same thing with the y, it's 2 lots of y or 2 times y, and now I know that y is 2, it's 2 times 2 plus 6. And now I can figure this out. I can go 3 times 3, that's 9. 2 times 2 is 4, and 6 is 6, and I get an answer of 19. Okay, the most common mistakes here are probably going to be writing 33 and 22, and I can see why you would do that, but hopefully you just remember that this is like saying it's 3 lots of whatever x is. So when you pop it in, I tend to do it in brackets. You could absolutely get away with saying 3 times 3 plus 2 times 2 plus 6. You can see it gets a little bit scary looking after a while. Instead of writing the times, I just like to pop my thing in brackets. I find that is a little bit easier to follow, and that will always work on your calculator as well once we start using those. Okay, last one I want to go through is collecting like terms. So that means bringing together or adding or taking away our pronumerals that are the same. Okay, so all you have to do here is not overthink it. if I look at my 14p squared, is p squared, because that's my pronumeral, that's my thing here, is p squared the same as p? It's clearly not. It's very similar, but it's not exactly the same, which means I cannot add p squareds and p's. Okay, they're separate. But you'll see that down the end here, there is another p squared, which means I can bring my two p squareds together. So then what I look at, I might rewrite this in order, is I would have 14p squareds plus 9p squareds. Remember that sign goes with the number afterwards, which means it's minus 16p at the end. Now you absolutely don't need to write that step. I just find it a bit easier to explain by just grouping it closer together. So then at this point, whatever this is irrelevant. If I have 14 of something and I add 9 to it, I'm going to have 23 of that thing. Don't go changing your powers or anything like that. It's still just p squareds. And I'm going to minus 16p at the end. Okay? I can't bring those together. I'm done. That's finished. And that is your answer. Okay? Now this was a very, very quick explanation to try and get you through a lot of these questions. Obviously you can make use of the hints, the lessons and the videos on MathSpace, as well as please let me know if you do get stuck. And let me know how this kind of approach works for you, if it's something that you appreciate because you're able to go a bit quicker at your own pace or slow down at your own pace, or if you are not really enjoying this independent style feedback. Either way, please let me know.